Thank you, Mr. Fernando. Actually, you spoke on a very technical subject, and actually I didn't give you any warning. Rather, somehow the warning came up from behind, and you tried to conclude very hurriedly. However, I think it will create some sort of, maybe, I am not very sure, maybe inquisitiveness in your mind, so you have the scope to clarify during open forum session, but I am quite sanguine that the simulation, appropriate simulation, will bring more realism in the training, and if you have more realism, the training will be more effective, and effective training can always make soldiers very confident of encountering the critical situations. With this, the part of the deliberation of this session is over, and I am very, very happy that all the speakers, they actually maintained their time quite well, and as such, we have a good amount of time in our hand to take your valuable questions. The session was very, actually, with very diversified focus on different aspects. It started with a very experienced general and ended with a very young scholar. So I am sure that we'll be able to encompass many of the ideas, and we'll have new focus from the audience to hear about it. And I'm sure the audience is eagerly waiting to respond to your questions or comments. But I'll just make a humble request to all of you. It will help us to take a good number of questions if you will be very, very brief and specific while you ask question, and please do not forget to identify yourself for the record. Thank you very much. The floor is open. You can ask question. So we'll start with the general first. General normally speak generally, but that was my impression. But I found that today the first speaker in the morning, he spoke in details. So sir, please.
My question is basically to Army Commander, Army Training Command. Sir, you spoke on land doctrine. Now, considering the geographic location of Sri Lanka, what do you visualize would be mid-term and long-term perspective for this doctrine? And secondly, is there also a need for having air as well as naval doctrine specifically for long-term? Thank you, sir.
Is there anybody who is going to ask the general question? Then we can take one or two, three questions at a time, then he responds. That will save our time. The professor, please.
Firstly, let me congratulate General Prasanna De Silva, one of Sri Lanka's best and brightest generals who have contributed immensely to build capacity and the capabilities to fight and win the war. My question to the general is, since the end of conflict and the dawn of peace, we have seen the emergence of some extremism both in the north and in the south. This is largely ideologies coming from overseas. Even if you look at the northern conflict, the Dravida movement influenced the domestic politics in the north. And even in the south, as I have examined some of the extremist ideologies coming, that has nothing to do with our history, our culture, our tradition. It's coming from overseas. If you look at Sri Lankan history, we have had harmony between our communities for centuries. There were Sinhala generals who served with the army of Elara, and Tamil generals that served in the army of Dutugamunu. Ethnicity and religion was never a point of contention. Even the last king of Kandy, he signed in Tamil. We even had a French advisor, Dascon, in the service of the last king. So my question to you is, as you reorient the thinking of our military officers and our service personnel, how can we reinstill those values that we had historically of moderation, toleration, and coexistence. Because in the last 30 years, we may have developed some prejudice, some suspicion that may lead to anger. How can you bring in those dimensions that are necessary to create a stable and harmonious environment in the next 10 years? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rohan. I think he raised a very, very important question. So I'll not invite any more question at this time. We had two very important questions to you, General. The floor is yours.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Firstly, let me answer the General. I visited India, as I said, about a few months ago to Indian ARTRAC, and I found that it is the Indian naval is the one first to formulate a doctrine for the India, and then that's my understanding. And then I saw how it has developed into the rest of the security elements in the Indian military. So in ours also, I'm just talking to start it somewhere down the line. We have to start it, and of course it has to be short term first, and then based on that to develop a long term strategy, long term doctrine. To defend the country in whatever the threat that can develop into the country. And for Professor Rohan Gunrath, thank you very much for your comment firstly. And because of the time constraints, I touched upon the point that you brought about. I think it is a very important aspect, and especially in developing a doctrine, this particular part has to come into our teaching. And it has to be bottled down to all the military when it is developing the organizing and then developing the structure and then to develop the social harmony. As I said in my brief, very briefly touch upon in my presentation, yes, we have been a nation that has lived very harmoniously one among another, but within almost, we all know that we are colonized for almost about 500 years, and within which the divide and rule, the policy the colonizers adopted, it is still within us. So after independence in 1940, it is not still the time. We will take a long time to develop upon it. Of course, from the doctrine part of it also, I'm also studying it, and I think there are a lot of areas that we can incorporate into the doctrinal part of it to develop the social harmony and to build upon the national security based on the communal harmony. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General, for your comment. The floor is again open. You can ask question to any one of the speaker you feel like, and you just have to identify yourself. Thank you. Okay, Senior Colonel.
Thank you, Mr. General. Just to introduce about simulation. I think it's an interesting topic. So my questions, are there those applications in Sri Lanka military training? Okay, please, thank you.
Thank you. You can reply the question. Thank you.
Yes, actually, when I was doing my, background study and literature review, so I happened to identify that, please correct me if I am wrong, I happened to identify there is a certain simulation, actually, not a virtual, but a, live simulation in the Sri Lanka Navy of a particular dome which they have to, use or train their simulations. To my knowledge, I'm not, quite sure about other training simulations which they have used. To my knowledge, there have been, no such virtual simulations which they use in Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much. We'll look for the next question.